everyone once again, and welcome to CSR Lens. My name is Ohinewa Brown, and this is the platform where we have discussions on corporate social responsibility as well as sustainability. Today, we are looking at delivering safe water in Ghana. Are we making enough investments? So, on the 22nd of March, which was last Monday, we commemorated the World Water Day. And as you're all aware, Ghana is one of the countries that is challenged with water access, safe water. A lot of our water bodies are polluted. And so we're going to have a discussion on where we stand in terms of investment when it comes to the sector, and then also the bodies in this sector, what at all are they doing in order to ensure that the children who find themselves in our basic schools and the various communities, I mean, we are in COVID and in COVID era, and water is one of the resources that actually help all of us to stay safe in terms of washing our hands under running water. And so today our conversation is basically going to be around water delivery. And we cannot talk about water without speaking to the body that has all the NGOs in this country that looks at water and sanitation. And so today my conversation is with the former executive secretary, I beg your pardon, of the coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation. He is Mr. Patrick Apoyo, who would be helping me with the discussion for us to have a fair idea the commemoration, our status as a country, and where we want to go moving from there. Mr. Patrick Apoya, I beg your pardon. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you so much for joining me here on CSR Lense. Good afternoon, Mr. Apoya. Thank you for joining me here on CSR Lense. Hello, sir. Hello, Mr. Apoya. Please, can you hear me? Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me here on CSR Lense.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Great. So thank you so much for joining me and accepting to speak with us here on CSR Lens. First of all, can you take us through what coalition of NGOs CONI was in water and sanitation? What do you do actually? I mean, what is this body about?
Yes, the coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation is a network of non-state actors, mostly NGOs, but also private companies who have social enterprises, to be able to harness their voices and connect with grassroots, to be able to influence policies at the top, to work for the most vulnerable people, and for that matter, every person living in Ghana, so that every person can have full access to sanitation, water, and hygiene. In short, that is CONIWAS, and we basically are involved in the advocacy space, where we are looking at policies that might not be working well for government and also for people. We are also into the knowledge space, where we are trying to look at how things are done elsewhere and new knowledge that we could put on the table through research and through synthesis or analysis of new knowledge. We are also into actually service delivery, where some members are targeting the poorest of the poor, who are never reached at all by whatever the state or other development agencies might be providing. This is necessary because you need to be able to understand what is happening on the ground, to be able to apply whatever innovations and knowledge that exists but not adequately used, and to be able to then feed that into policy and monitor the outcomes of whatever we do, to ensure that we are using our resources properly to the benefit of the country and to the benefit of every person living in the country. So that's in brief what CONIWA stands for.
All right, great. So in terms of policy that you talk about, I mean, trying to direct policy, what are some of the things you can mention, if you don't mind, in terms of directing policymakers to make certain changes?
Yes. policy is the most important aspect of inclusiveness. When a policy is not properly done, that in itself can be a barrier to many people. So, for
Yeah.
instance, when policies are flipped, like let's take an example, the hot debate about how to classify water. Water is an economic
Yeah.
good, but it has social dimensions we should respect. Or water is a social good, but it has economic value that must be recognized. These two statements alone are so significantly different that if one were to be taken over the other, it could mean water for some people or no water for other people. And in our engagement on crafting that part of the policy, we were unanimous in mobilizing all stakeholders to agree that yes, water is a social good, but it has economic value that we must respect. In that case, when there's scarcity,
Yeah.
then the social needs must take priority over the economic needs. This is one of the very breakthrough policy issues that the coalition has been able to support government and other stakeholders to frame. There are also issues about some of the barriers that were inhibiting access to potable water at the real level, whether it's about the pricing, whether it's about community contribution, or whether it's about how to manage the water systems themselves, or whatever support they get. These are areas that we had to work with state authorities to be able to come out with the right policies that will work well for government, for local government, and then for the communities themselves. These are just a few examples of policies. Other policy areas that we are currently looking at is the issues related to the National Sanitation Authority, which we know we have. It has been proven. I mean, its value has been properly demonstrated. We've been able to package all the evidence that supports the creation of an agency, just like Community Water and Sanitation Agency, to oversee sanitation delivery in the country, but which has been slowly going through the process. Nonetheless, we think that there's enough energy now in the sector, from the minister down to the technocrats in the ministry to other stakeholders outside our own ministry to work towards the establishment of the National Sanitation Authority.
Great.
How it will function, how it will be funded, how funds will be used. All these are issues that civil society needs to take serious and work, so that eventually when it is in place, it doesn't intend work against the very reasons why we advocated for its establishment.
Okay, great. Now let's move on to World Water Day celebration. Now, last year, for instance, which was 2020, the theme for the World Water Day celebration was water, water and climate change. For you as a body, are you able to tell us what level of progress we have made as a country in terms of water delivery and then climate change, which is of big concern to a lot of people around the world?
Yes, every well water week or well water day has a theme with a purpose of galvanizing energies uh, around a particular priority of water delivery. And as you rightly said, last year it was about water and climate change. Issues of climate change seem to be very difficult for people to interpret. They see it as, oh, those heavy polluters way out in Europe, who are the people who are causing a lot of the pollution, and they're the people who should be worried about climate change. But we fail to understand that whatever happens elsewhere, the effects are not contained in those locations. And whatever little that we are also contributing also adds to compound the problem. And for you to not do anything about it, and you are still feeling the impact of that climate change, then people need to take a second look about how they understand and interpret issues of climate change. In our own sector, climate change impacts us severely when it comes to uh, uh, the negative effects of droughts. Water storage is a very important thing for this country, and when you do not have the capacity to store enough water, in case of a flood, that becomes a very risky. I mean, it becomes a security issue for the country when in terms of water access. So when the government policy of one village, one dam came up, we saw that it was. I mean, it was actually already there before the well water day team last year. We saw that it fitted into that particular government policy, that the ability of the country to store water in different locations of the country, not just storing it in one location. Like if you take our water resources, 90% of that resources is within the Volta Basin, and 70% of it is within the Volta Basin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hello. Hello, Mr. Patrick. Yeah.
And it is saving only population.
All right, Mr. Patrick, if you could reposition yourself for us. Hello there, you're all watching. Welcome again to CSR Lense. This is the discussion we're having on delivering water, safe water in Ghana. Are we making enough investment? All right, last Monday was the commemoration of World Water Day, and a lot of stakeholders in this country are supporting the delivery of safe water. If you look at the statistics, about 80% of the population of Ghana has improved access to water. But unfortunately, a lot of us still do not have access to water. And of course, on that particular day when the celebration was going on, and there were people, some communities, especially in the Volta region, in the northern region, who have come out to request for government's assistance in terms of what they need to do in terms of having access to potable water. There are a lot of agencies, I must say. There's World Vision, there is US Aid, there is a Rotary that is also supporting. Rotary actually has some collaboration with US Aid in terms of provision of potable water to the various communities. But at the end of the day, are we making enough investment? What exactly is government doing? And these NGOs, is the level of investment that we are making yielding the needed results? If you look at statistics that comes from the Education Information Systems Management, it tells you that about 49% of basic schools in this country do not have access to water. And so now that we find ourselves in COVID era, where water, hand wash is the most important thing in terms of staying safe from contracting the virus, how are we managing in our basic schools? How are we managing in the various environments, in the various communities? Is the conversation all about Accra, or we are having actually a better look at the rural areas or the rural folks? So I have been engaging Mr. Patrick Apoya, who is the former executive secretary of the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation. Unfortunately, I lost him because, data internet in this country is a mess. So sometimes it's a bit of headache having all these things done. But I hope to have Mr. Patrick join me very soon so that we can continue with the conversation. He has so far touched on an overview of the coalition of NGOs and what exactly they do. He has also helped us to educate us on some of the policies that they look at in terms of getting government to change certain aspects of the things that it does in the sector. And then he has also touched on, we are now talking about the theme for last year, which is water and climate change. What progress have we made as a country? Or for me, commemorating World Days is not just about the events that comes with it. There should be significance. There should be some lessons learned. There should be some steps, some work done, so that it's not always about the press conferences, the rhetorics. Are we really doing the job? Are we getting the work done? The minister this week on Monday mentioned that government is currently investing about 1.4 billion cedis, billion dollars, I beg your pardon, on 14 projects on urban water supply. So are we just talking, or we're really doing something in terms of the areas that all of us find ourselves in? And this is where we've gotten the conversation to. I'll try as much as possible to get Mr. Patrick back online so that we can have this conversation. Just forgive me, I don't have access, or I don't have control over internet in this country. um, I'm using MTN. I hope they get back to me and get and get my internet back. So hello, Mr. Patrick, can you hear me, please? Hello. Hello, Mr. Patrick. And whilst we wait for Mr. Patrick, who has mentioned that he's trying to reconnect, let me just remind all of you that you can be part of the conversation by sending in your comments, sending in your questions, so that we can throw all that to Mr. Patrick when he joins us to be able to answer these questions for us. This is CSR Lense, and my name is Ohinewa Brown. You can also visit our platform, just leave a message with us, and whatever requirements, whatever questions that you have on any of my guests who has been, any of the guests who have been on the show, we can get them to respond to that. So today we are still talking about water delivery in Ghana. Are we making enough investment? So last Monday was the World Water Day, and which actually was celebrated on a theme valuing water. And the Ministry of Water and Sanitation held a press conference led by the minister herself, Madam Cecilia Adapa, Honorable Cecilia Adapa, who actually made an announcement that government is currently investing about $1.4 billion in 14 projects. That's urban water supplies projects. But then the question is that, are the investment that we are making as a country enough? Because we've had the likes of World Vision talk about us, the importance for us to make enough investment when it comes to water and sanitation. We have also looked at, or had some of these NGOs come up to get government to also work harder in terms of channeling investments in that sector. And so the question is, are we making enough investment to ensure that the statistics that are coming from our rural areas, the statistics that are coming from the basic schools, for instance, the Education Management Information System tells us that as of 2018, there were 49% of schools in the basic sector who do not have access to water in the country. And so we're asking how we can get this done. Hello, Mr. Patrick.
Yes, can you continue on just phone so that you can, I don't know how to work.
Let's see if that works for me. Yeah, so, okay. All right. So now let me find out from you. You were touching on the last year's theme on water and climate change. Now, can we move away from that in terms of the level of progress we have made? Can we move on to the theme for this year, valuing water? So, as a body, Connie are you able to tell us our attitude? I mean, first of all, what do you make of the theme for this year?
Yes, again, this year is a very significant theme, and a theme that matters to everybody. When we see water around, everybody now understand that water has value. But usually, anytime we are valuing water, we are only valuing the economic cost of producing that water and delivering that water, and how much you pay for the water. But the value of water is much, much more than that. So in valuing water, we need to also factor in the social costs, we need to factor in the ecological costs, and we also need to factor in a lot of non-economic costs that are far, far, far more heavier than the financial or the economic costs that we normally focus on. So for instance, if I decide that I only sell water to areas that can pay or need the water now, we also forget that the value of water in attracting industries to a particular place cannot be quantified. We have cited examples of how in Tamale, 2 or 3 big industries came and tried 3 years to start big production branches in those areas, but because of lack of access to water to power their operations, after 6-7 years of struggling, they gave up. Coca-Cola is one of them that wanted to start a bottling unit there. Schweppes is one of them, and another huge industry. These companies, on paper, they started preparations, but because of lack of water. So if you are valuing water, the actual value of water in Tamale, therefore, is the opportunities that we have missed to change the lives of people simply because water was not available. It is not just about how much people were paying for water there and we will invest. So when we are investing in water, we should look at beyond the accounting aspects of it. If you are valuing water, we should look at the ecological aspects of it. If you go and pollute a water body because you are getting so much gold out of that, and then all the ecosystems downstream are perished because we are extracting gold upstream and we are not spending enough money to protect that. Whatever biodiversity that we are destroying, if you put it value on paper, it far more exceeds the economic value of water. And that, of course, we also are not underplaying the economic value of water. People need to recognize that water is expensive to treat and even to bring into our homes. And therefore, we should not waste water. Water providers need to respond promptly to buy rates so that the amount of money we have used to treat that water doesn't just stay in the street. So it doesn't have to be like as and when we have time to come to repair them. People need to be more concerning in how they use the water, because what you use may be depriving somebody else from using. So if you're able to save 1 bucket, you're actually saving a life. So this is the significance of this year's message. And looking forward, this is the kind of message you want to instill in the population.
Okay, great. Mr. Patrick, unfortunately, I think the phone wouldn't really work for the stream. And so maybe we would have to end the conversation here and then have this conversation again, if you do not mind.
Yes, okay. I actually wanted to ask for that.
Okay. Yes.
The importance, and unfortunately, I faced some technical challenges.
That's fine.
I'll be happy to have it rescheduled.
Yes,
at any time convenient to you.
Great. All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. All right, so viewers, I apologize for the technical challenge that my guest is having. Unfortunately, I would have to bring the conversation to an end here. We have so far looked at the theme, an overview of what Connie Ngos is all about, the coalition of NGOs in water and sanitation. He has also touched on last year's theme, which is water and climate change, and has talked about valuing water, which is the theme for this year, which was celebrated or commemorated on Monday. Unfortunately, he is having some technical challenges, which is beyond our control. And so I would beg your pardon to end the conversation here. Same time next week, I'll bring your way the same conversation so that we can go deeper into delivering water and whether or not as a country we are making enough investments. See you all same time next week. Thanks for being part of this conversation. Bye for now.